There's still a good deal of controversy surrounding the deaths of Anwar al-Awlaki and Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki. I'm going to try to clear up in this video. Anwar al-Awlaki was born in New Mexico. He's a U.S. citizen. He was assassinated September 30th, 2011 by a U.S. drone strike in Yemen. Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, Anwar al-Awlaki's 16-year-old son, was born in Denver, Colorado, a 16-year-old U.S. citizen. Abdul Rahman was killed October 14, 2011 by a U.S. drone strike in Yemen. So Anwar al-Awlaki and his son Abdul Rahman were killed about 2 weeks apart, both by U.S. drone strikes. Now, Anwar al-Awlaki, he has long been a suspected terrorist, suspected of working with Al-Qaeda. He was on the CIA hit list, assassination list, for 17 months since February 2010. Now, the scary thing about this is, regardless of your party affiliation, regardless of your reactions to the U.S. foreign policy, Anwar al-Awlaki was a U.S. citizen. His citizenship was never revoked. There was never a trial against him. There was never any evidence presented to him in a federal court. He's still a U.S. citizen, regardless of where he is, regardless of what he's doing. You don't lose your citizenship rights when you go to another country. So Anwar al-Awlaki, he was an imam in Yemen for quite some time, for many years. So he was a spiritual leader, so to speak. So he traveled around, he gave talks. After 9/11, he actually said that there's no justification for attacks on innocent people in New York or Washington, D.C., no matter how many people in the Middle East were killed by the U.S. So, at least at one point, Anwar al-Awlaki was preaching nonviolence. He was preaching, no, killing innocent civilians, no matter how many innocent people in the U.S. might kill in the Middle East, is never justified. So, if anything, Anwar al-Awlaki was preaching a nonviolent message. He was not preaching some radical message. Now, this might have changed. It very well might have. I am not disputing that. However, there has been no evidence presented against him. This is what I find very disturbing. If there is such a clear case that Anwar al-Awlaki is indeed a terrorist working to fight against the U.S. violently, then present the evidence. But the Obama administration, the CIA, no one put that information out there. No one presented that evidence to a federal court to get a warrant or anything of that sort against Anwar al-Awlaki. So he was taken out September 30th, assassinated by the Obama administration. Obama took this as a political victory. He took this as a victory for freedom and for the U.S. And some people in Congress and the Senate said, wait a minute, we shouldn't be assassinating U.S. citizens regardless of how much hate they have from the government, or no matter how much the government says they're bad. If you don't present the evidence, that sort of defeats the purpose of due process guaranteed by the Constitution. But even more disturbing than this is Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki's assassination on October 14th, 2011, 2 weeks after his dad was killed. Now, Abdul Rahman, yes, he was in Yemen, but that does not discount the fact that, for one thing, he was born in Denver, Colorado. He's a U.S. citizen, a 16-year-old U.S. teenager. He was in Yemen having a Friday night barbecue with some of his friends. A U.S. drone strike took him out. The circumstances of the assassination, the circumstances of that strike, the purpose behind that strike, the target of the strike, none of it has been released by the Obama administration or anyone in the federal government. The only person that I know of who has even brought this issue up, who's within the federal government, is Ron Paul. Senator Rand Paul, Ron Paul's son, does not know the distinction between the two deaths. When I brought this issue up to Rand Paul, when I met with Rand Paul in New Hampshire, when he came and visited some of the people campaigning for Ron Paul, Rand Paul did not realize that Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki and Anwar al-Awlaki were killed in separate strikes. So there's a lot of ignorance in this issue, even with people who you would think would at least know the distinction, even if they might disagree on, the meaning of it all. But the issue here is Constitution. The issue here is individual rights. Also the issue here is federal power, especially presidential power. Does the president really maintain the right to kill whoever he or she sees as a threat to American national defense? If so, that brings up some very dangerous constitutional questions, liberty questions that no one can ignore. Obama essentially took it upon himself to kill whoever he seemed to be a threat to national security. That is a very dangerous precedent, and even George Bush, he might have tortured some people, but he did not put American citizens on a kill list. And I'm not discounting the lives of people who aren't American citizens, but for people within the U.S. who have been sleeping this whole time, just blindly accepting whatever the government does, this better be a wake-up call. I do not see any more value to a life based on the geographic area that they're born. But for people who are still caught up in this system, caught up in this ideology, the fact that U.S. citizens now are being killed and targeted by the U.S. government without any process of due process or presentation of evidence or obtaining a warrant, that is extremely dangerous. And if that doesn't show you how far out of control the government is today, I don't know what will. But Abdul Rahman Al-Awlaki and Anwar Al-Awlaki, they deserve some justice. I'm not saying that Anwar Al-Awlaki was not a bad guy. I don't know if he was, but neither does the government apparently, because they're not presenting any evidence. Without a trial, without a court procedure, innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty. Those principles are the bedrock of, really, the Bill of Rights, the bedrock of a constitutional republic. So if you ignore that due process, if you ignore that procedure of due process, it's a slippery slope, and it's only going to descend into more tyranny. Abdul Rahman Al-Awlaki was a 16-year-old minor, an American citizen, killed and probably targeted by the U.S. government and Barack Obama. That is a sick thought. Are we taking out the offspring of Anwar Al-Awlaki? Are we taking off suspected terrorists, even if they're 16 years old and American citizens, without any evidence presented against them? I don't know. But these are questions that need to be answered. And the danger of this is, the further we get away from it, the more people are going to forget. I made videos about this, made an article about it, a couple days after this all happened in October. But the further away we get from this issue, the more time progresses and passes by, the more people are going to forget. And they're just going to accept it blindly. Or they might not even accept it blindly, but they'll say, hey, nothing we can do about it now. Well, I'm not giving up on this issue, because this is extremely important. Just imagine if someone in your family was targeted by the government, either wrongly or truthfully, but without due process, without any legal procedure whatsoever. At this point, the Constitution doesn't mean anything, as long as the President says, these people are bad. Anwar Al-Awlaki, he may have provoked some violence. That's really the only, once you start nitpicking at people and asking for the evidence against Al-Awlaki, say, well, maybe he sent some emails to the Fort Hood shooter. Maybe he sent some emails to the underwear bomber. Maybe he had been corresponding with these people. But there's no evidence that I've seen, or the government certainly hasn't presented, that Anwar Al-Awlaki actually killed someone, or actively told someone, you should go kill these people. If anything, there's videos of Anwar Al-Awlaki saying violence is not justified against innocent civilians in the U.S., no matter how many innocent civilians in the Middle East might be killed by the U.S. So I'm not defending necessarily the actions of Anwar Al-Awlaki. I don't know. But the government has taken a step further and said, it doesn't matter if you're an American citizen, it doesn't matter if you have a right to trial, it doesn't matter. It's really what the government's saying. So that is very dangerous, and I'm not giving up on this issue, but people need to tear away their ignorance of this issue, because this is extremely important. And I'm not saying Mitt Romney's any better, I'm not making this a political thing. This is dangerous regardless of who's in power. So, research this issue. Tell your friends about it. Share this video. Share this information. Because if we accept the death without due process of these U.S. citizens, and if we ignore this issue, then it's a dangerous day to live in the United States, and it's a dangerous day for the world as a whole.